So I'm going to introduce Norman. So Norman's from FIS, and he's going to talk about, again, how they've mitigated fraud in the P2P network and how they've used Safer Payments to do that.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody's time today. So when we're taking a look at one of the main reasons we chose to go with IBM Safer Payments for our P2P service and our real-time transfer service, it was simple. I needed to have a software that was not a batch environment. I needed to have a software that had machine learning and artificial intelligence. And I needed to have a software that allows for low false positives with the ability for us and our clients to be able to tweak rules to their specific user set, their specific client base, and specifics throughout the US. I might have a different user case that I have in Virginia versus a use case that I have in New Mexico. So the main reasons we looked to the partnership with IBM was simple. It's a very high profile, very high cognitive learning system that allows for flexibility for us to make rules in real time, in a sandbox. It's going to allow me to test all of my false positives, so I'm not going to affect a customer's use base before I push that rule into the world. And it allows me to make those rules happen as soon as I hit submit. So if you think about what we're talking about here, I've gone from a batch environment of payments, right? My bill pay service allows me to look at a transaction. I can look at it, say, this looks like a fraud transaction. In the real world of P2P services and our real-time transfer service, I have milliseconds to do that. So our fraud team that reports into my world said, we've got to get a better service. The part that we really loved with the IBM piece as well is it allows us to manage the software the way that we need to for our client base, and allows us not to only manage the software, but allows us to take that software and resell it to our clients and help our clients build out a better fraud protection for their set. When we're looking at what we're doing, all the functionality that Paul talked about earlier was the huge piece for us and why we loved it. When we're taking the real-time payments, the false positives are what drove us to say we've got to look for a better solution than what we currently had before we went into play here. When we're taking the ability to move IBM into production, that happened for us in March. We took our high-risk transactions and we scored them separately. We took mid-risk transactions, scored them separately, and then low-risk transactions for approval. I have 3 ways that I can do this, and that allowed us to then bake out simple rule sets for our clients. So when we went live in March, with P2P and our transfer product and IBM Safer Payments, you can take a look at what we were able to do. The meat of why we chose IBM was, one, the implementation was simple. The rules that we're able to write are allowing us to do that, as I stated, in real time, and it drives a better opportunity for clients to not only give their end users a better user experience, but also allows them to drive the optimal experience when it comes to how do I stop fraud. Paul mentioned earlier, fraud is a big business. Fraud is in an industrial revolution that we're in a part of right now. And if you take a look, when we went live with Safer Payments, I dropped to 80% of my clients had zero fraud, which was up from 57%. We went live in March with this. From March to June, fraudsters targeting my FIS client base, and we had at that point we had about 107 in a P2P network. We have 186 in our own P2P network, and a little over 200 in our transfer network. 70% of fraudsters targeting FIS dropped by 70%. Huge, huge opportunity and number for us. Right? Fraud is a bottom line revenue loss for us. It's a bottom line revenue loss for my clients, and it's a bottom line revenue suck for everybody that sits in this room. So when we're taking a look at the exposure piece, I dropped my exposure by 72%. My basis points went down in exposure by 72%. I want that to sink in for a second. When we're talking about what that means, that's a large, large dollar amount on the number of transactions that we're running through. So when we take a look at the very last point on this slide, 90% false positive drop. If you think about what that savings mean in just bodies alone, and the time the customer is, or the time my fraud team is spending reviewing false positives, that's a huge, huge dramatic drop for us. So we've been able to take this software, we've been able to allow Safer Payments to not only run with our P2P version, our third-party P2P version, and our real-time transfer product, but we'll also be rolling our bill pay product into 2020. The goal for this is to make sure with bill pay going into the real-time payment space, my ACH product and my real-time payments product, every one of my products in my line of business will be run through IBM Safer Payments. So the objective for us was to make it as simple as possible, not only for my clients, but also for the teams in my world and the teams in the client's world to be able to drive that. So you're looking at the ability to take a software, very simple implementation, very easy to work and manage, and very, very user-friendly for us. So with that, I am a little over my time. So Paul, thanks for having me today. I appreciate it. If you guys have questions, I'm more than happy to grab some in the back for you, and we'll talk through it.
Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.